Clash of Health. It's January 6th, 2025, and here is the Akashic weather report. Without too much ado, I'm going to pull it up. So the first thing was a dog hunt, and then Avalon came through. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Avalon. If you're not, I'll put some information in the notes. And then I crossed the veil of existence and was told it can be done in this lifetime. Patience for your fellow man. And then I saw like a piranha fish, and like a jagged sword. And I looked up piranha fish and its spiritual meaning. And one of my favorite websites is Anti-Flow, and she does quite a bit with dreams. And she describes the piranha as a fish that can help us with like fortitude and courage and facing our demons, like facing the our adversaries. And I'm guessing that that could be internal adversaries or literal adversaries, and also working with groups. Piranhas something also have to do with working with groups from a metaphysical perspective. Saint Martin came up, and I looked up Saint Martin, and he was a saint in the like the 300s or 400s, and I think he's the patron saint of Poland, and he's very much about helping those who are disenfranchised. And apparently he had a cloak, and he gave half of his cloak to the poor. And then also Saint Germain came up, who some people think of as Joseph, Jesus's father, earth father, as Saint Germain. Then the word trickery came through, manuscript for freedom. And in this manuscript for freedom, it said, delight in the moment always, breathe the breath of new life that is coming into being. Justice will be served. Stark contrast right now to the new beginnings. And then I saw these concentric circles. And then I saw Saint Peter hanging. And apparently he died by crucifixion. He was crucified upside down. So I definitely saw his death, but it was more of a hanging. The city Baton Rouge came up, and then the Indian herb Vidari, I think it is. Terrible with my Sanskrit. And Vidari is ashwagandha. And I just had an herb class over the weekend, and I've worked with ashwagandha for years. I actually grow it. But it's not been one of the herbs that I've really had a close relationship with. It's a nightshade, and I've been kind of critical of it for that reason. But it seems like it wants to work with me. So I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to do some studying of it today from a spiritual and a literal perspective. Sea to shining sea. Then the candle that I had lit in the room went out. I went to the Hall of Justice, AKA the Akashic Records, and I saw these files. And so at this point, I'm like a queen, like cloaked, and I'm like in this Hall of Justice, but I have these, it's almost like a cartoon, this caricature, these skinny little legs as I'm walking in this, garb, this queen garb down the Hall of Justice looking for a file. And I take the mask off. They say, take your mask off, that which you hold as your external. And then I become like Batgirl. And bats represent rebirth. So it's kind of cute. Like I was Batgirl, and I'm flying above the clouds, and I go to what I thought was New Zealand. And then I shift gears and go to Amsterdam. So it was New Zealand and then Amsterdam. And I saw these protests. And then I'm taken to the Viking period, Middle Ages, fighting, blast from the past. So I tried to put this all together, and actually in some semblance of way I was able to. So there have been recent protests in Amsterdam. Of course, these protests have been happening all over the world, but specifically in Amsterdam, they actually had like a state of emergency back in November about the conflict in the Middle East, and they were anti-Semitic protests that happened and bombings. And New Zealand was originally Zealand, which is part of Holland. So, and there was like the Viking period that took over that area of the world back in the day when the Vikings were taking over things in Europe. So it's just kind of interesting as like the blast from the past. And then at this point, I was looking in the dirt for minerals, almost looking for like gold and minerals, and just kind of like separating the dirt and looking. And I was told that the dirt has the answers to the past, and we need to balance the sky and earth gods. So at this point, I'm going down underground, and I see the scientist, and he's working hunched over and he doesn't see me. And I can tell he's plotting something. He's a scientific engineer and he's plotting some kind of terror. And so he's very much into what he's doing. And I get a sense that there are other people there. I just see like maybe a couple other people, but they're really in the periphery. And I know I'm invisible at this period of time and it's really dark under there and not a lot is going on except the scientist doing his plotting. And then I'm like, okay, well, I saw what I needed to see. I'm ready to leave. And so at this point, I'm like, can I get out of here? And so I call in Jesus. Oh wait, okay. So then I'm like, I want to get out of here. How do I get out of here? And I'm like, I really don't know how. So it's just strange. I just want to let you know if you kind of want like how does this make sense? Like a part of me knows that this is like almost imaginative that's coming through, but another part knows that it's serious business, that I can't just like I have to finish this as if I would in life. It's almost like this imaginative world that I go into in the Akash. I know it's imaginative on one level, and I also know that this is real in its own way, that I can't just like, oh, I'm just gonna drop this. Like I have to like work through it. And so at this point, I'm in this underground space, and I decide to just go into the earth, like the minerals, and just fade into the earth. And I do, and then I'm back where I'm looking at the minerals in the earth. So like it's almost like my higher self is looking at the minerals that are the microcosm, and the whole of me is looking at it. And I was like, well, I can't stay in the earth. Like I have to come back. So I go back into this domain where this scientist is, and I call in Jesus, and he says, you have to get out yourself. And I turn to the door, he disappears, and I turn to like what now is a door, and I'm visible to the scientist. So I'm in the space, the door is closed, and the scientist sees me. And he's like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, okay, like I got to deal with this. And I get big and I say, what are you doing here? Like, I'm like, it's not me that should be questioned, you should be questioned. And then others kind of come out and are watching this interaction, and they're not going against me as he is. They're just watching, they're like the watchers, so to speak. And the door then opens and I leave, and they're bewildered when I left. They're like, what was that about? They're kind of shaking their heads, and they go back to their work almost like it never happened, but it did happen to them. And then the ship that it now is like a ship. That door stays opened. The door is no longer closed. And I'm told the plot thickens, And I asked days, question mark, weeks, question mark, months, no, years, no. And then it's maintain the soliloquy of hope, those pioneering a new beginning. And I see a scene from the Wild Wild West. And so it's almost like the prelude to before the hurricane in The Wizard of Oz. It's almost like right before the storm. And you don't have to presuppose what's going to happen next. And then the heavens open, and I see this, like literally the heavens open and volcanic ash flowing down. And I'm told that it's having a flying a leathening event. I'm sorry, I can't read my writing. Heathen event, leavening event, and there's going to be an inner and outer storm. Find ones who own their sovereignty, find others who own their sovereignty. And then I saw like blocks from the Tetris game. So this was kind of a really interesting visual. It was almost like these like blocks that were like stacking, and we needed to like stack these blocks. And I'm not at all sure what that was about. Some of this I can try to make sense of, and that just thing was just weird. It was literally stacking blocks in like a Tetris game. And then I was saying there'll be an empty space 3 to 4 days before the storm. So I didn't know if it was this was 3 or 4 days before the storm, or something would be like an empty space 3 or 4 days before the storm. And then I see flashes of the storm, but it's not here. And then I see the presidential phone. I'm gonna look up the presidential phone, what that's about. Okay, so I just looked at the presidential phone, and the super secure presidential phone that Trump may not use, this says. Okay, this was prior to his last term. But this is what it says about the presidential phone. And this is the phone I think that I saw. Among the privileges and cool stuff that comes with being the president of the United States is a highly modified Boeing black smartphone, an encrypted device certified to handle top secret data. The Defense Department Information System Agency, or DISA, developed the phone with help from Boeing and other partners. It goes with the office. Trump is thinking of using his old phone. This was back in 2017. The phone emerged from the agency's Mobility Classified Capacity Program. NASA approved. Interesting. So there you go. That was the phone that I saw. And so I see the presidential phone. It's black. And like I need to push the buttons. I see a group of men coming in tall suits trying to stop me. So almost like a warning, like they're trying to stop me from alerting. And I do see someone who is the current president amongst these people coming in. But there are many of them. There are many of them coming in suits. We'll call them the suits. I go under the desk and then through the floor under earth, and I come out into the red zone. Everything looks red. It's like post-apocalyptic scene. I get in a spaceship and I go to the Council of Light, and I feel really good. So I go way up. So get in this spaceship, and I'm taken high up to the Council of Light, and I'm with these female beings, and then I see the word Herod. And then I see the golden pawn of the new age. It's beautiful. It's 5-dimensional. I'm told soon. Take cover. So there you go. That's today's message. It's kind of sci-fi and fun if it's just imagination. So let's hope it is. Have a good one. Thanks for being here today.